Chapter 29. Finding Damien was a lot easier. We found him in the outskirts of Bakersfield. I immediately got out of the car and ran to him. He had been walking for days and didn't know how to find me, or even find his way to Arizona. But everything was okay, I reassured him. Everything was now fine, that I was back in his arms. He locked eyes for a long moment and he kissed me. It took me away for a moment, making me forget about everything I had been through. But then I remembered Charlie was in the car, and he was watching. So when I pulled away slowly, I told them we needed to talk. I told them everything as Kikyo and Charlie watched our distant silhouettes talk. He put his hands around my waist, causing a slight panic to rise in my throat, knowing Charlie was watching. And he looked away as if he read my mind. But all he said while looking away was, "If you're happy, then I am happy. And whatever you choose, let it be your choice." And we went back to the car. We got back in the car and I sat in the back with Charlie so he didn't feel so threatened. And Damien took the passenger seat of Kikyo's black Toyota. "I can't believe this," Charlie says out loud. "This whole thing is full of shit," he demanded. "Charles," I pleaded. "If he wants to be a baby about this, we should leave him here. I mean, there's no need for a human with us anyway. Not unless he's our food," Damien says without looking. His distant look out the window obviously portrayed his anger, but I had never seen him like this. "He's not even relevant," Charlie demanded again. "And who is he talking to?" "Please stop," I tried, but I was just interrupted by the two of them letting out their secret anger in an argument. And, and for the record, I'm still alive. "I'm alive because I'm a demon now," Charlie says. And it gets quiet immediately, and everyone looks to me, and I didn't know what to say, but I could feel my ears getting hot. "Is that true?" I asked quietly. But before Charles could answer, the two go back to arguing. Um, Hello," Kikyo screams to silence both the boys. "We don't have time for this. Either you two settle this now or shut the hell up. We have somewhere to be, and we don't even know where the Undead Empire even is. We can't waste any more time because you two want to be little boys," she screams. No one says anything. I could tell this wasn't over between them, and I was stuck in the middle. "So where do we go from here?" Kikyo asked, starting the car. Author's notes. Yas, girl keep gay. Yas, girl keep girl boss bad bitch feminine powers. Chapter 30. Kikyo flips her hair as she gets out of the car. We were pit stopping at the in some middle of nowhere gas station. We were all quiet, except Kikyo, who decided to play the radio when she couldn't take the awkward silence. We stopped at a gas station and I volunteered to go in with her inside. Maybe then the boys will finally talk it out without arguing. At least I hope so. The heat was times 3 here, with a lot of houses and only a little country, but still nothing to see. We walked inside and I had to admit I was nervous leaving them alone. Alright, we need chips and canned sodas and a ton of beer. Do you have your ID? No. I kinda answered unaware at the same time what she meant. Are you okay? She asked me, but I still didn't really get it. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just, the boys are... Kikyo lets out a deep sigh and puts her hand on my shoulder. Look, they both agreed to wait until you choose. I don't see the problem. If anything, they should fight so you know they both care, she said. Wouldn't you fight for someone you love? That's all I've been doing, I told myself. We walked down the aisles and Kikyo impatiently lectured me on letting them make their own decisions. That's not what I'm scared of. What if they killed each other? Author's notes. Yay! I'm still updating a project I care about. Well, that's rare. Follow for more control and leave me good reviews. Chapter 31. We walked up the aisle to check out after picking a ton of stuff, and a song came on the radio playing above us. Oh, I love this song, Kiyo exclaimed. She stopped pushing the basket and started to dance around me. Oh, come on, you have to dance with me, she called as she suckled me. Keeks, please, I begged. I had to admit, we weren't that close, but I had to relive the pressure on my chest about this. Things weren't as simple as they were before. Come on, dance with me, she grabbed both my hands. Tell me about it while we dance. It'll make you feel better. So I gave in and started dancing with her as she shook her hips and waved her arms. She was actually really funny. That she broke out into a dance in the middle of the gas station. And better yet, she convinced me to do it too. I forgot all about what I wanted to say. I had to feel better watching Kikyo seriously dance around in circles. So that's what we did. We danced and danced until the song was over, and we were out of breath. And she was right. They both decided to wait on my decision. Why should I worry the entire time? The song ended and we paid for our stuff and left. When we got back to the car, Damien was standing outside of the car in his black leather jacket in the heat. Well, I guess that could have went better. What's wrong? I asked almost in a whisper. Nothing. I just need some air, that's all, he told me. But I knew something had happened. But what? It was too late. Kikyo was already closing the door, so I jumped in and called Damien to come on. When he didn't move for a second, I thought to myself, was he gonna stay? Author's notes. Just wait for more to come. It's gonna get really good. But first, you have to introduce more characters, all while developing Kikyo's character. Chapter 32. Suddenly, Damon turns around in the middle of my thought and got in the car. That's when I saw them. It was four Reapers standing in front of the car about 100 feet away. They were coming in our direction. But before I could say anything, Kikyo was peeling off, speeding away. They're gonna catch us as soon as we stop, Damien said. So Kikyo picked up speed. That's not the point, I quickly retorted from the back seat. We shouldn't fight them as long as we don't have to. That's stupid. So if one of them attacks us, They can pick us off one at a time, Charlie answers, raising his voice. We're almost in Montana. Do we need a plan? Kikyo exclaims. No, we shouldn't fight, I answer firmly. So we get to Montana and then what? Damien asks in a huff. We should protect ourselves until we get there, I answered. And no one said anything. We reached the rural part of Montana whenever we first got there and ended up somewhere in the busyness of a small city. We drive around restlessly because no one wanted to admit we had to eventually find somewhere to sleep and shower. It was kind of like having to admit to ourselves that each of us were stuck in this journey, so we might as well stick together. There we found a cheap motel to stay at, called the Five States. We had enough for everyone to get their own room, but we could only stay for the night, and no one really said much of anything. I could tell no one was in the mood. We went our separate ways after each one of us got our keys and agreed to meet up at 9 a.m. to get breakfast and get back on the road. And they agreed. No one was sharing a room tonight. We all agreed and split up. We told each other good night and to be safe while we were alone. Little did I know the night wasn't over. It wasn't over at all. Author's notes. It's almost been a year. Did my book make it on Goodreads yet? I didn't forget, so if you haven't, please leave me a good review. Chapter 33. I had just gotten out of the shower and I heard a knocking at the door. Oh shit, who is this? I thought to myself. I crept up to the door and looked through the peephole only to reveal it was Kikyo. What are you doing? I asked harshly as I turned around to let her in. I'm here so we can sneak out tonight. I think you need it. And besides, it'll be fun, just the two of us. You're crazy. We shouldn't leave the group, I told her. I sit on the edge of my bed noticing how gross it could have been. Come on, it'll be fun. And I'll let you vent about the boys the whole night. That did make me feel better. It had been on my mind the entire night and most of the day. I could use someone to talk to. Fine, I agreed. And Kikyo let out a loud laugh. Great. Let's go now before we run out of time and have to come back. She grabbed my hand and we run to our car. We shouldn't take the car, she says when we get there. They will notice, she says out of breath. So what are we gonna do? I ask. We'll walk it. And when we get somewhere we can get food and then go exploring, she answered. But before she could grab my hand, I took the lead. Sounds fun, I smile at her. We roam down the dark street without many streetlights and talk. And it's crazy because I never thought I would fall for somebody else so quickly. And I thought I really liked him, I went on. Sometimes I don't know if I deserve either one of them. I could have hurt them. I'm gonna hurt someone. What should I do? You should wait and see which boy's gonna take care of you. I mean, you don't want to pick Damien and then one day he just up and leaves. And the same with Charlie. What if he changes his mind about you? Kikyo says. Yeah, I guess, I answer. When we reach a busy road, we walked on the side until we found a Waffle House we could crash at. We talked and talked until I started to feel bad for dragging the conversation on. Maybe I could change the subject and figure out who Kikyo really is. Yeah, I'm 19, but I'm not really worried about boys, she answered nonchalantly. Why would I care? I slowly picked at her, trying to decipher what she really meant and what was the pointless info. I quickly found out that she was 19 and she was born in January. She had dressed in dark clothing since she was in middle school, and she was born a banshee, and her father wasn't in the picture. She grew up learning very little about her powers and unintentionally learned to hate herself because of it. But eventually she trailed back to me and my issue before I could get anything useful to know about her. I became a banshee when I was 13. Boring story, really. What about you? She asked, snapped me out of my train of thought. I told her about Derek for the first time that night. We laughed and goofed off, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel so alone. She was different, just like me, and honestly, for the first time, I felt like I had someone to talk to, someone I could trust, an actual friend. Author's notes. Bad bitch, feminine power, and real friendship tropes. LOLOL. Who could do it like me? Leave me good reviews. And also content warning. Next week we talk to God. One more time and he says things about sexuality and morals and living the right life. If you are sensitive about these topics, please skip it. There, I said something. Chapter 34. It was ominous. The aura of the temple we stood outside of. I peered to the top of the temple fates that seemed like we were miles taller than me. These gates lead to the temple of the eternal life. God spoke in a calm voice. You have been chosen, son. Chosen to do something. To fight for something that most people would be too afraid to ever fight for. I said nothing for a moment, and I couldn't deny the feeling I had in the pit of my stomach. There was so much I wanted to ask him about the council of the dead and how I find Derek, but I said nothing instead. How do I know you even care about me and what I want? I asked quietly. I wanted to say something, but everything in me was paralyzed in fear. God had said even other gods would die at the mere sight of even the temple gates, let alone look at God. I love you more than you know. You are my son, and of course I care about you, he spoke. I looked down at my feet, away from God. How could God care? I was a sinner. I was a goth. I was gay. Don't those people go to hell? I asked shyly. I knew immediately that I had crossed the line, but not in the way I had expected. You are perfect to me, he said. I could hear the tone in his voice. He was hurt, and I was questioning him as if I was questioning his loyalty. Whether you are gay or straight, I am the God of all, he said promptly. I love you regardless of who you are and who you want to be. I don't even care about sex or sexuality. All I want is you. You are my son. A tear unexpectedly ran down my cheek. I had felt so alone in this world, and nothing, no matter what I did, never felt better. I was so sure that I was lost. I was so sure that I was broken. And God, He loved me. Another tear fell. How come people don't know that you don't care if people are gay? I asked. People have the self-control they want. I have nothing to do with that. And when they turn from me, then there is nothing I can do, he says. I'm so sorry if the believers hurt you. It was never my intention to hurt you. Dad? I asked meekly. Yes, he says, amused by me. Why am I here? I asked. The power of death is a war only I wage, but very soon you will get the privilege of fighting to protect my people when death rises once again. How? How can I fight something so much bigger than me? How can I stand up for what I believe in? I I don't even know what that is, I demanded. How can I do anything and I'm so small? You only think you are small, he replied, when really you are destined for great things. And then I woke up. I felt a little bit more determined even though it took some convincing. But when we all met up and ate breakfast in silence, I knew what everyone was thinking. I knew because I was worried too, but I was a little bit more confident after talking to God. I was the leader of this group of misfits now. Wherever we went, we had to be responsible, and I had to watch out for everyone here. We got into the car and continued the rest of our drive. Okay, you guys, this is what we'll do. I'll go with Kikyo inside the temple. You two will sneak around the temple to get some information on what they know about the seven gates of heaven. There should be some kind of library. All you need to do is steal the information and meet us back at the car, I announced. Why does she get to go? Damien demanded. She can't even protect you. She can too, and besides, chances are they'll be used to the Banshee girl rather than a rogue Reaper or the Demon Kid. You'll stick out, I retort. How will they even sneak off? Kikyo asked. They can wait, and when the time is right, they can sneak off. All they have to do is come up with an excuse to be escorted around, I say. Just think of something. I give. Fine. They only half agree while Damien and Charles stare at each other in discontent. And one thing, I say. No fighting, you two. I look back at them, but they had given each other enough eye contact for an entire car ride. Author's notes. I literally thought they'd be there already, but I needed so much time for the character development. But don't worry, we'll get to the point very soon. Halfway mark is the start of the arc. Leave me a good review. And don't make fun of me. Their plan, I'm so burnt out from writing I can't take it. Chapter 35. We drove past the trees on the long countryside roads, and soon enough there it was, the temple of the undead empire. We drove up to the temple gates, and the two guards welcomed us and opened the gates. We drove around 1,000 more feet and parked and got out, in which the temple monk greeted us. Somehow I was hoping it would be easy, but this was too easy and confusing at the same time. We walked into the small lobby-like entrance and realized that the monks guarded the door upon our arrival. Something weird was definitely going on. But the monks soon acknowledged that that they knew we were coming. We turned around at them at the sound of their voice as he made his entrance. It was a monk in full bright red robe, and two men followed closely behind him. And then a young man about 18 or 19 followed along with a shy look on his face. "We are not here to talk, aren't we?" the first monk spoke. "Then let us not waste time." We all walked into the giant open room they called the inner court, and as we sat down, Kikyo noticed something weird was going on. By the end of the day, I was sure. "So, you're here because the Council of the Dead is chasing you," the monk spoke. It was all me, I spoke. "The Council of the Dead are after me, and the Reaper saved me, and we escaped. We came here because we need help. There will be a war between us and the Council, only, and we only came here seeking guidance. You have been seen by all of our oracles, and we knew that you have seen God. If war can be avoided—" "I can't," I interrupted. "It's far too late, and we couldn't trust the decisions of the Council, and neither could you. Helping us is your only choice," I tried. He said nothing. "Please, we need a miracle to fight them on our own. And because you're harboring us, they would only come here after you next," I demanded. "You must have known that they couldn't be trusted. So how could you sit back and do nothing and let it all go to hell?" I asked. "We don't owe you anything," he started. "Whether you go to war with the Council had absolutely nothing to do with us here. But we will help you, on one condition," he demanded. We all let out a sigh of relief. "That Banshee girl. She was foretold to be a great warrior in hiding. She has been hiding for generations and has outlived all of them. If we assist you in the war, we keep her." "No," I demand. "Anything else?" But he shakes his head. "We want nothing more." "Fine," a voice came from beside me before I could interject. It was Kikyo. "No," I demand. "I have no right to give away one of mine for you," I spit. "She can't, and she won't." I look over to her in silence, but it was too late. "If you protect us and we live, I stay," she says. Then she meets eyes with me. "If it means protecting you, then I'll do it." I wanted to argue. I wanted to protest. But her mind was made up. Chapter 36. So I said nothing. As we agreed to fight alongside the undead empire, we would have to make a plan, as well as find a place to wage the war. How would we lure them there, and how to defeat the council? This young man is Brandon. He is our best fighter in his age group, the same age as some of you. He will go with you to serve and find the caulking. "What's a caulking?" Charles asked. "It's a Bible, or a book of shadows. It was hidden years ago, and no one has found it in decades. Many people have died trying to find it." "Why would we go there and look for it?" Damien interrupted. "You'll go because we know exactly where the caulking is located," the monk answered. "We are the ones that hid it, and Brendan here will lead you straight to it. Brendan is the chaos spawn, the only one in generations to have his special power. And I am his teacher, Hunruk," the monk spoke. He is very special and talented in fighting. He is my prodigy, but I can't send him with you if you turn out to be a helpless group, nor can we help you. I don't understand, Damien asked, confused. You can't stay and rest for here. You can stay here and rest for a week, and tomorrow we can test your strength, your abilities, and maybe even teach you a thing or two. But if you cannot defend your own lives and each other's, we will not help you. That's fine, I agreed. And just like that, the Empire of the Undead were harboring the 4 fugitives from the Council of the Dead, helping them wage the war. Chapter 37. We walked down the long corridor hallways decorated with a tacky skin tone wallpaper with red lotus flowers on it as they showed each of us our rooms. We would eat with the other monks and meet everyone. Then we were advised to stay in our rooms until then. So we followed in silence, as well as we each were directed to our rooms. I was nervous because the last two were Charles and Damien, but I couldn't worry for long. I was exhausted. I laid down and fell asleep until I heard a knock on my door. I looked at my watch. It was almost 7. Was it time to eat already? It felt like I barely slept. When I offered for the person to come in, no one came in. I rushed to the door and opened it, revealing it was Kikyo. How did she find my room? She was the first to be directed to her room. She came in and explained herself. I came to find you. We should sneak around and find out what this temple is really about, she whispered. I was mad at her for agreeing to stay here after our war. Why would she do that? She didn't want to stay. Either way, she never explained, but she made her decision. Of course, I smiled. And just like that, we were sneaking down the hallways around the temple. It was oddly quiet. You could hear a distant noise down the hallway that shifted through the entire temple. We walked briskly without anywhere to go. Somehow the calm air started to make me relax and Kikyo spoke. So this war, she offered. We're definitely fighting to the death with these council guys, right? She raised an eyebrow at me. I was nervous, but knew deep down I had to give the speech for fighting the good fight eventually. I guess I told myself I would not convince anyone to fight by my side. To ask someone to risk their life wasn't who I was, even though I basically dragged this mysterious emo banshee girl here. I didn't have to make her fight. No, I came up with the plan already. The warriors here will fight. I will beg for them to help me stand up against the temple. I will lead this war. She hesitated for a moment and then she said, What about me? She asked. You will stay here with Charlie at the temple, I told her solemnly, to the point. We walked around the corner, and when she still didn't say anything, I started to get nervous. But then her voice brought my head back down. There's no way I'm letting you fight alone, she says. You can't fight this key. I know what's best for you guys, and you won't ever have to fight and risk everything for something that was my fault. Before she could respond, we hear a creak shoot down the hallway through the silence. It was footsteps, and someone was coming. Chapter 38. We both froze and looked at each other. Someone was coming down the hallway. And there we were, stuck in the middle. The footsteps steadily paced down the hallway until they reached where we were standing, in the quiet of the temple. The person slowly came to a stop and no one was there. He checked around, touching the walls to make sure that there was nothing, but he got an eerie feeling as if he thought he had heard someone. We raced back to my room in a lightning speed. Surprising me, Kikyo could keep up, as she laughed to herself the whole way back. When we reached the safety of my room, we sat down and drank tea and she spoke. "So what's the real plan?" she asked me after a moment of silence. I let out a sigh and answered, "We'll have this dinner first and then we'll talk about it. But I want to tell you first," I gave out. "We have to strategize from here. It would depend on someone moving the chess pieces from the temple, and I think that person is you." "So you think we can win this fight?" she asked me. "It's not a fight we can lose. We have to go into it with bravery and our heads up," I confessed. "And just let me convince the Empire to help us fight tonight at the dinner, and then you'll definitely hear the rest very soon," I offered her. "Fine." She took, and with that she stood to her feet. I just go I'll just go back and get dressed for dinner before I get caught," she says, and I agreed. I didn't want to scare her, but it would definitely be a dangerous fight. Not a fight, a war. Chapter 39. We walk in a silent line through the temple where they ate. I wore a black button-down dress shirt and a pair of black fit jeans and a pair of black and white Converse. The silence was intense, but all I could think about was myself in that moment. This was the moment I had to sell myself to the undead empire and fight. But I would be standing alone and risking the lives of my friends if I couldn't. We all sat down and I was asked to sit at the head of the table as the lead monk, also known as the Nami Otaku, would sit the very opposite end. It happened so fast, but I just took a deep breath and rested knowing we made it to the undead empire in one piece. I admired Kikyo from the corner of my eye. She wore a light blue kimono with purple dragons covering it. She had her big afro curl. She had her hair curled, tied up in two knee buns. They sat perfectly as she let two strands fall into her face. She was stunning. She sat quietly, taking deep breaths until she let out a sigh. She was being so confident. She then leans over and whispers something in Damien's ear, in which they laugh. It was just like her to keep everything casual. It was just like her to be unafraid. We all chattered and spoke quietly except me. I looked around, noticed the monks eating in silence all around us. The high ceilings and the beautiful windows and painted glass. It was also stunning. "Jaden?" I heard Damien offer in a polite tone. The sound of his voice brought my head back down. The Omi Otaku has arrived and everyone has stood. Everyone except me. I stood quickly and let Damien finish greeting him before I introduced myself. "So I hear you need our help. the otaku asked after everyone settled into their seats. He was straight to the point, but that was okay. I couldn't be easily defeated. Yes, the Council of the Dead has risen and are trying to overthrow the balance of the afterlife. I was falsely accused and wrongly judged and sentenced to death. I need your help, I confessed. For a moment he said nothing. Then he finally spoke. Did you know that once upon a time the only balance of the afterlife once tested rested on the council only? He asked. I smiled. I'm sorry, I haven't been around that long, but I do know that they are corrupt now, I answered meekly. What makes you think we can help you and your friends? He gestures to everyone sitting at the table. You come here and ask us to compromise our partnership with the council, right? I'm not asking for a fight, just protection for my friends, I asked. Fine. But what makes you think that we can help you? Because if I'm right, you can't afford to be wrong, I announce, and it grows deadly quiet. The council will betray you and your loyalty treaty as soon as they can. The point is, they need to be stopped, and if you won't do it, I'll do it alone. He says nothing. And then to my shock, he stands up. Surprised by this, some people gasp, but his assistant rises and the Otaku whispers in his ear and leaves the dinner. I messed up big time, but it happened so fast I couldn't get a hold of it. No, I won't make excuses. I needed to fix it. I looked at Damien and stand up to my feet. My apologies, but we really don't. We really need your help. But his assistant waved me off. And just like that, he was gone. Chapter 40. The assistant stumbled over to me and whispered in my ear, and I smiled, looking over to Damien, whose face was visibly worried. He wore a dark navy blue button-down shirt and black pants with the top buttons undone, lightly exposing his nice, clean, smooth chest. He had his hair gelled back and tucked into a nice big curl, giving him a look that reminded me of an actor. He's looking around and consoles Kikyo, and Charlie continues to assure everyone that it will be okay. That night I couldn't sleep. I had been here for only one day and all I could think was the fight outside the temple. Damien could have been killed. So could Charlie. It was my fault that they were in such danger, but somehow, in some way, we made it this far. It would take a lot of training, but I knew I could get this battle. I knew I could win this war. The next day we met in the temple. We were instructed to train, eat, and sleep with the monks when the monks did so, for at least half the day. Then and only then the Otaku would help us. After the war, Kikyo would stay, and the rest of us would have to take safety in the countryside. I would have chosen by them who I loved. It was a lot of decisions all at once, and it felt like I didn't say anything and I didn't complain. I was just going to train and learn to control my power and learn to help put up a fight against the Council of the Dead. I think I realized out of the four of us, Kikyo and Damien were the strongest, and me and Charlie were still learning. Charlie was persistent in learning how to control his demon rage. And I still had to learn how to summon and cast if I was going to be any help. The temple was forged by 3 temple monks, Ashok, Tanak, and Uriel. In the late 1700s, raising people from the dead was outlawed, and their magic consisted of necromancy and magic casting, but they did all but when they all decided to never sacrifice for the government rule, they disappeared from their respective villages. No one thought that they would have survived, but they ended up creating a safe place for the natives that were on the land to the east and protected them if they left offerings at their individual shrines. Tanakh soon took students under his wing, and the natives greatly appreciated this, and many wanted to learn how to fight and how to survive. After learning how to fight from Tanakh and how to survive from Ashok, Uriel taught the natives grace and religion. They soon became gods, and upon their passing 60 to 80 years ago, they became well respected, and the temple had not only tripled in size, it was growing every day. The Empire of the Undead gets its name from the warriors' will to embrace the afterlife before death and live it through their entire lives. But when their home village began to grow jealous of them, they became worried of betrayal despite constantly providing when needed long after Ashok, Tinach, and Uriel's death. The Empire of the Undead had to flee to the realm of the afterlife only after returning recently to the human realm, which indoctrinated all kinds of mystical creatures to the temple at the time.